Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Could you please raise your hand before I start the talk if you ever heard about Azure Fabric or used Fabric? Okay, then at least half of the people. Good, thank you. So, as Mike said, my name is Viktor Gazdag. I'm a principal security consultant at NCC Group, and I'm specialized in cloud and CI/CD security. I have a bunch of Azure-related certification, but also I had for other cloud providers as well. And I gave some talks previously as well, and this is my third time here back at the Cloud Village. So you can see, hopefully, this URL. You can download the presentation and you can follow along in case you can't see something on the screen. It's basically 99% of the same slides. I have one extra slide. So I won't read the whole stuff by Microsoft, what Fabric is, but basically it's a SaaS analytic platforms that includes all the big data services like data engineering, data factory, data warehouse, and so on, with a unified platform and one portal. So this is just to have a quick overview that you have the one lake where you will store all your data and databases and items, and then you can use all the other services like Data Factory or PowerBI, and between these services and the one lake you will have the capacity that will run those things. And also you can use shortcuts or MirrorDB to bring outside data as well. So the presentation is broken down into like two sections. First or three sections, so some introduction and then the tenant level settings that I choose, like the top three that I think you should look after. And then I will talk about two types of abuses that I started to explore. So about the tenant level settings, the top three are related to sharing, using service principal, and user function. So about export and sharing, it's about how wide and then how much people you want to share the data in Azure Fabric. So for example, the first one, it's basically a grouping and not one exact setting. So the first one is the export, and within the export is the external data sharing. So you can share everything within Fabric outside of your organization. So with disabling this, you can narrow it down who will access it. The next one is guest users can access Microsoft Fabric. So if you have Entra ID and you invite guests or users, then these guests can also access Fabric unless you disable this. So the next topic will be about service principal, because you can use service principals or manage identities as well in Fabric. And basically, you can allow these service principals to access read-only admin APIs or public APIs as well, public APIs. So with these two settings, you can have applications or service principals to call these APIs and manage permissions or settings or just share items, so in a programmatic way. So it's again, you can narrow down who can do what with management side or data side. The third one is, it's a mouthful. So it says restrict content with protected labels from being shared via link with everyone in your organization. So just imagine you have a lot of guest users in your Entra ID, and they are also allowed to access Fabric. And you have data that's labeled with secret or internal only or something like that. You don't want to be that shared with guest users or anyone and have an unauthorized access. And there's a +1, which is the user data functions. So basically, you can create your own custom, for example, Python functions, and add even custom Python packages. and you can call these from the data pipeline or the notebook itself and from other places, or even from applications. So you have to be very careful who is allowed to create and use these, because you can introduce unwanted code or even backdoors with it. So I would like to emphasize this is just 3 basically settings or group of settings, but there are like hundreds of settings. These are only my 3 top choices, and also you can have something like conditional access policies, so you can use some of the services with conditional access policies. Also, you have 2 options to block internet access or Fabric being accessed from the internet, which is these private links and the block public internet access. But you have to be very careful to use these, because it will break things. So once you enable these 2 settings, you can't reach anything with Fabric. So you have to configure in advance, like virtual network and virtual machines or bastion hosts to access it. Okay, now comes the fun part. So I explored 2 types of abuses. The first one is the cool stuff, the backdoor, and then I will talk the basic stuff about data exfiltration. Because this is an analytics platform and it's all about data, you have a lot of built-in option to do the data exfiltration. So within Fabric, you have some options to create backdoor and run codes as well. So the first one is Activator, which is basically an event monitoring and event triggering function. So if, for example, a notebook is created, then you can send an email, or you can run your Power Automate scripts or run notebook. Then you have the notebook itself, where you can create reports, or use Python to do some data transformation and so on. But you can upload and use your own custom Python packages, not just whatever available in the package repository, but you can also use Java language and other languages as well. Then you also have the Power Automate, which is the low-code, no-code solution from Microsoft. And you have the option to use Entra ID steps. So, for example, create a service principal or add the user and this kind of stuff. Then the last one is scheduled spike job. This one also uses Python. And here again, if you create a custom environment, then you can upload your own custom package as well. But I will show you some pictures about it as well. So my backdoor has multiple components. So I will use Activator to look for certain events in certain workspaces. And once that event happens, it will run my notebook or any notebook. But my notebook contains some funny codes. And this code will use Azure Python SDK. I'm using Azure Python SDK to create Azure resources, manage identity, and do the role assignment and stuff. So I will have a backdoor virtual machine and backdoor manage identity. The notebook can run in basically 2 different ways. The first one is, or the default one is, when you create it, it will run in the name of the user who created the notebook. The other way is to use service principal or manage identity, and it will run in the name of it. But in this proof of concept demo and video, I will just use the user-based run. Also, you have to enable at tenant level settings to use service principal and stuff. So yeah, so for the Activator, you have different kind of events that you can monitor and subscribe, basically, like job events, one-like events, or workspace events, or even Azure Blob Storage events. And these events can be like when it's created, updated, or deleted, but it's combined, and you will see in the next slides. It's like created, succeeded, or created failed. So it's like a combination. Also, there is some delay between the events and what you see those events. I think when I created the demo video, I had like 30 minutes delay, but I think it can be up to 2 hours as well. I think you can see it. So this is when you create the activator and you can select the data source or what items you are interested in. So here is just the workspace item events that I will choose. This is the list of item events. As I said, it's like a create succeeded or create failed, but let's choose. I choose here everything. Once you have the rule, then you can have something like a definition, so you can filter out for specific events or specific workspace, or you're interested in like one specific notebook with a name created, you can create the definition here. And then you have the action part, where you can run the notebook, the Power Automate, or send an email and this kind of stuff. So here are some pictures that I uploaded a custom Python package, and I used pip to install it. You can see it's installed locally or at the capacity, and I just called the function, the main function of it. And here you can see that there is the upload option. So I will talk a little bit about the notebook and the Azure Python SDK, how I used it. I also generated this code with Cloud AI, so it's very handy to create these prototypes, and you can learn how things are working. So first, I need to install some of the packages. So like the last one is the Azure Identity. That's for creating the credential and login with the service principal. Or you have the Azure Management Compute, which will be responsible to create the virtual machines in an easier way. Here are just some imports, or importing some functions from the packages. I also uploaded the whole notebook to the GitHub repository, so you can see the whole stuff, how it works. So here, first you need to create a credential that you will use with the client. Because I use service principal, I have to use the client secret credential and not the default Azure credential function, because those are different for different scenarios. But for service principal, it's the client secret credential. And then you create the clients. It depends on you want to log in or create a managed service identity for virtual machines and so on. This is just the basic calls of the role assignment and managed identity creation, but the actual creation and usage is in this slide. So you'll basically just create the parameters. So when you see the try, return, out client, role assignment create, so that's the SDK for you creating the role assignment. So it's less code. And the same, this is, but this is for the managed identity. Sometimes you also have to wait because they are synchronous calls, and you have to wait until everything is run and finished. Otherwise, your notebook can fail and run into problems. This is the, like a visual representation, what's going to happen in the video, but I will talk through the video as well. So you have the workspace, you have the activator looking for the items or the events. Once it's something happened, then it will run the notebook, which contains the Azure Python SDK, and runs the Python code. The Python code will create a virtual machine. It will create a network security group that will allow SSHing to the virtual machine. And there is also a managed identity created with the contributor role on the resource group. So I can SSH to this virtual machine. I will have the user. And once I'm at the virtual machine, I can get the access token and use the access token from anywhere and access the resources. Okay, here you can see this is how Fabric looks like. It's very similar, like I think the old one or the PowerBI. You have the workspace here with all the items and folders. Here in the Azure portal, you only see the capacity itself, so no notebooks, no virtual machines or databases or anything, or lake houses. I have only the service principal that I will use with the Python SDK to create the managed identity and the Azure resources. Okay, so this is called Activator. That's what I'm using for monitoring the events. I will choose what kind of events I'm interested in. So it's the Fabric events and specifically the workspace item events. I'm subscribed basically to all the events, and it's workspace. And then you have to create a rule that what events are you interested in, or what specific events. So you can filter it out, like I want to see only, or I'm only interested in the notebook creation or deletion events. There's the condition type, and then you have the action. So by default that's email, but you can have the Fabric item and then notebook and the Power Automate. So I will open an already existing one and working one because I had some problems, and also it takes a lot of time, but I know this is working and this is the same settings. I'll just show you as well. So you can see here already there are some events happened, like item created succeeded and so on. You can see like notebooks were created before, or the activator were changed and so on. Here we can see that the condition, I'm interested in one specific workspace and I will run the notebook one. So you can basically put deep down your notebook and then select here, so it's not that easy to see. And also within the notebook itself, you can hide the content or the output as well. I mean, you can unhide it, but still it's some help. So these are the same stuff that I showed you before. If you stop the video or see, those hard-coded credentials are not working. I deleted everyone, so. Yeah, it's just creating the network and the energy and the virtual machine, the user and so on. But you can see this whole code at the GitHub repository. And once it's run, it will print out like what's the IP, what's the username and so on, but you can even send it out to your own web server. Okay, I think I will just create and delete a notebook now. Yep. So I don't do anything fancy, it's just creating, it creates the notebook, it's automatically saved as well, and then I will wait until it's saved, and then I will just delete it. So I need this to trigger the activator, and once the activator is triggered, it will run the notebook. So basically you can use it as a delayed code execution or delayed creating the backdoor and other stuff. Also the video is edited because it takes some time to see the actual event. Now with some magic we should see, yeah, so the notebook 3 was created and deleted, what I just did before. Yeah, I just highlight that it was created and then successfully deleted. And you can check the notebook and its history. So when it runs, so you see the history here that sometimes it's failed, sometimes it's successful, but I checked the last one, I think, which was successful. And you will see here the output. So we have the IP address, the username, and in the Azure portal you can see it's created and it's the same IP address. Also now we have the managed identity that's assigned to the virtual machine. It's the same name. And we can see at the Fabric 2 resource group that it's a contributor. Now I will SSH into this virtual machine. And then I will use curl to get the access token and then list all the resources. Okay, I get the access token and now listing the resources. So I highlight that it's the Fabric 2 resource group, and you can see, I think the virtual network is the same, and I think I don't highlight everything else, but it's the same, like the IP address and so on. Okay, now I will talk about the built-in options that you can use and abuse for the data exfiltration part. So I will talk about the data pipeline, the notebook, the shortcut, the SQL endpoint, and the mirror DB. So the data pipeline, it basically looks like this. You have a copy data step, and then you have an if condition. So basically the first copy data is just copying the data from one storage account to the lakehouse or two different storage accounts. So basically the easiest thing to do is just add another step and another copy, or you can also like put some code into the notebook when you have an if condition and add some extra code and so on. Also here you can see that you have different outcomes. So for example, the on success or on completion or failed, and you can use these statuses to do the next step you want to do. So if your data copy was successful and completed, then you can have another your own data exfiltration step to do it. For the notebook, it's the same notebook that we saw before. Again, you can use your own custom package, and also the notebook have internet access, so it can download basically everything that you want and run it. And also you can schedule this notebook to run periodically. Yeah, this is just a picture for the Spark job. When you create a custom environment, then you can upload the Python package in this example, and you have to use a specific format, which is the VL format. As the same, you can upload for the notebook itself that we saw before. We'll just go through this. Here we can see that the pip show command shows the package metadata, and it was created by me and so on. So shortcut. You can use shortcut, which is basically a symbolic link. It's the same way as the symbolic link works in Windows or Linux. So there will be like a point to the target, in this case, database, or yes, database or storage account. There's one thing, some stuff or some items is internal to Fabric, so you can't use, for example, another lake house from a different tenant, as far as I know. But you can use data lake or S3 bucket or GCP storage account. So here is a screenshot about the shortcut, and you can see that you have different kind of authentication methods like access key, a SaaS or service principal, and so on. So the idea here is that as you are an attacker, you will create the shortcut in your own workspace, because it will link to the target's database, and you can work on it, and you don't really see it because it's your own workspace and not the target's workspace. So you will have to have some kind of logging to see that it's being used by others. But so here it's your own workspace. You can see the shortcut, and it's the same files as you can see in the Azure portal. So yeah, here you can see that's the shortcut target location, and it's the same name basically here in the Azure portal. So SQL Endpoint, when you create a lakehouse in Fabric and in your workspace, then it will automatically create an SQL Endpoint, which is basically a read-only endpoint, and you can connect it with an SQL Management Studio. You can share these endpoints. So if you only share, then you will only have the connection, but you can have the read-all permission, which will allow you to query the data. But what you can do is just share the connection, and at database level, you will grant access and you can query the database. So imagine you are allowing guest users to access Fabric, and you just share the connection with the guest user and grant select query at the database level. Then it's like a partially hidden access. So this is just the screenshot for it. As you can see, I only have the read, which is the sharing permission, but still I was managed to connect with the Management Studio and query the database. This is how you do it, the grant select command, and also you can see that it's been given to my user. So the last one is the mirror DB. I don't have screenshot for this, but basically this is mirroring the database, and not the actual database, but the transaction logs. So what happens, what actions being made to the database, and that's replicated, and you can work on it. And if you drop it in your own workspace, then it will only drop in your workspace and not the target. So it's a similar scenario like the shortcut, that you have a link to the target database. So you create a mirror DB in your own attacker workspace, and it will mirror from the target database. Just I had a good screen or a picture from Microsoft. That's how it looks like basically. And basically that's it. I will just quickly summarize. So I talked about the tenant level settings. I talked, and we see the demo video about the backdoor and some of the basic data exfiltration functions and things that you can do. I also included some links for the Python SDK, or there's a tool that can make you an Excel file and see all the settings. Also a link for the descriptions, and Microsoft also created a white paper how to secure Fabric itself. And yeah, that's it. If you have any questions now or later, you can reach me at Woodsby with X, or you can write an email. And again, the conference slides is available at this repository. Thank you.